Hello, and welcome yet again to another week of Chinthe Learning. This week, we are going to be answering the question, what does it mean to be human? Now, that's a big question. And throughout all of your courses, you will be looking at this question from different standpoints. Social studies, we're going to focus a lot about being human and our interaction with the environment. But the first thing I want to do is actually let's go back to reminding ourselves that all about this unit. So why should we care is the title of our unit. So we're always keeping that in mind. Like we strive to answer that at the end. We also are going to be looking at our enduring understanding of reciprocal relationships are built upon the understanding of what it means to be human. There we go, right there. So we need to unpack this idea of what it means to be human, which comes to our first essential question, and that's what we're going to be addressing. You guys all have access to this student handout to make sure that you're following along and you know what your learning targets are, as well as the standards that will be addressed throughout this unit. So these are just for social studies. They are going to interweave with some science and some language arts. And all of your subjects will strive this week to answer what it means to be human. But I just wanted to point out exactly in social studies what we were going to focus on. So let's go back to our PowerPoint just to give you an overview. Let me move myself over. So what does it mean to be human? You're going to follow along on this PowerPoint where you'll answer questions like what a human needs to survive. You'll do some exploring with some great links. We'll take a look back at reciprocal relationships. Looking at this relationship between humans and the environment. And we'll take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the last thing you guys are going to be doing is coming up with the perfect location for human beings to settle. And this is where you're going to have your first formally assessed assignment in social studies. There's a rubric provided. And the main thing we are going to be focusing on, I'll show you the rubric, is your claim, otherwise known as a thesis, and your evidence. So you need to come up with a strong claim. Let's look back at our PowerPoint. And it says, describe the perfect location for human beings to settle on and develop. You need to state very clearly where you think that perfect place is. That's your opinion. And then you're going to add some information as to why it's perfect. And the evidence that you provide should be from readings that you've done, any of the information you found throughout the PowerPoint. There's a lot of things to click on, but you need to provide evidence that proves your claim, that says, I am right. So that's all we're going to be looking for this week. You'll get some good feedback on that. And the last and final thing for week 3 is current events. We would like to get started on current events. So throughout your time of social studies, you should be reading the news. Now, I know the news right now is generally dominated with anything COVID related, coronavirus related, but you still can find some interesting stories out there. Some of you also might be incredibly interested what's going on with a potential vaccine or the different lockdowns happening throughout the world as things open up and close and the different rising rates. It is completely up to you. Find what you're interested in. I've given you several links here, Myanmar Times, Al Jazeera, CNN, my personal favorite, CNN 10. It's actually a video that you guys can watch. They put it out every Monday. Actually, it's Monday through Friday. They may have changed it, but I think it's Monday through Friday. And it's a 10-minute news segment, and it's fantastic. It'll summarize all of the major news stories, and it'll give you some ideas of things to think about. You should be reading or watching the news as often as possible. Once you do that, the next thing we want you to do is actually choose one of these options. And it's something that we're going to be a bit informal at first, but we want you to kind of get in the habit of reading the news, talking about it with someone so that you're already thinking about it. So number 1, you could go talk to your parents, see what their opinion is about the topic. What do they have to say? Maybe talk to your friends. You could also find an interesting political cartoon, thinking back to week 2, where we actually found political cartoons of reciprocal relationships. You can just find a political cartoon about anything in the news. Do you agree with them? Do you have the same opinion? Would you have maybe representative in different fashion? You can also find the news story on a different news site, but from another part of the world. So maybe if you look at the Myanmar Times versus the New York Times, those are definitely different parts of the world, and they often have different things to say. So read, watch the news, pay attention to things that you're interested in. And in the coming weeks, we will have you actually do a current event reflection where you formally look at some of these news stories and start to formulate some opinions and provide some evidence. So that's all about week 3 in social studies. Let's go back to our main question, just because I really love this one. What does it mean to be human? And I'll just leave you with that. And we will see you guys soon.